Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's April 24th, Friday, TGIF, everybody. As you guys can see, I have no kitty in my hands, so you know what that means. We have a guest today. We have Ken Silva joining us. Now, I'm your host, Jose Galison. If you like seeing this show, the morning dump, typically around 11 a.m. Eastern, give or take, Monday through Friday when we actually make it, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're going live and we're dropping new videos. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day.
I am all right.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to white lights.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
Crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, I must have knocked my camera. It's all out of there. We go. I'm off center. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great day. We have Ken Silva joining us today. With that, our format will swap around a little bit. We're going to push our foreign policy coverage to the back, but as always, we'll start off the show with what I call Icebreaker Content, something a little more fun, funny, goofy, gem pop type stuff. Then we'll get into the main segments of the day. We have SPLC versus FBI, or rather, let's be real, the SPLC plus FBI. We'll get into all that. We got Blaze gets piped. We'll talk a little bit more about their pipe bomb story falling apart. And then Iranian Assassins, so touching base on the attempted Trump assassinations and whether they're of Iranian origin, all that and more. And we have Ken joining us. Sorry I wasn't here with you guys yesterday, by the way. I was a little bit sick. I did give you guys one of the paywalled episodes, and instead, if you hear a little sniffliness in my voice, that's leftovers. But I'm back with you all today. I will warn you, next week is still gonna be spotty as well. But I have a bunch of kitties going home, so there's a few days I think I just won't be able to make it. So sorry, my phone just went off. I should have turned that off. But with all that said, hey Ken, it's a pleasure to have you back with us. It's been a long time. I feel a little disheveled. You caught me. Literally, the sickness caught me right back, like a second wave right before we started, and all hacky and gross, and I was all cleared up and fine. So, Ken, pleasure to have you with us. Looks like all the reporting's right up your alley these days, so you must be killing it.
Yeah, the SPLC thing has been something that we've talked about for literally years in relation to the Oklahoma City bombing. So there's some pretty interesting historical threads to tug on there.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and get into, we'll talk about that a whole lot more, obviously, but let's get into what I call the icebreaker stuff, a little more funny. To start off, I don't know if you heard any tell about the recent guy who said he got teleported out of a Waffle House or to a Waffle House, I forget. But I thought, being as we have a reporter, journalist extraordinaire with us, I thought it's kind of fun to look into the specifics of this claim. It got shared around a bunch. Apparently, this is a guy who does this a bunch. So this is Greg Phillips, the high-ranking FEMA official who said he's teleported to a Waffle House, has a history of claiming supernatural encounters. A dead girlfriend once lifted his car off the road to avoid a crash. Satan once spoke to him while he walked across Spain. After collapsing inside at Indianapolis's Lowe's, he came to in a McDonald's parking lot across the street with 15,000 steps logged on his health app, a Big Mac in his lap, and little understanding of what had just happened. Phillips said of the incident, the whole space and time thing, continuum, got it all. It fell with me. Whatever that means. I called Donald Trump to ask about the teleportation claim. who said, "It sounds like a little strange, but I know nothing about teleporting or him, but I'll find out about it right now." Now, this is Andrew Kaczynski, CNN senior politics reporter that we were just reading. So I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on that. I thought maybe you might have a fun little side story. I'm sure you've probably had some crazy sources in the past, but this one had some legs since I guess he was some sort of FEMA chief, which, I mean, it sounds like a big deal, but maybe there's tons of FEMA chiefs. I don't know. But either way, it made for a fun story that got some legs not too long ago.
Yeah, I've seen this floating around Twitter, but I haven't looked at those incredible details. Yeah, I guess par for the course for the Trump administration. I'm not sure if you'd require a security clearance if you're a FEMA official, but it seems like there are possible national security risks if you're teleporting around and blacking out very often.
Yeah, well, that'll be Kash Patel's next excuse, I guess. All right, last icebreaker story. I've kind of teased about this, and I do want to at some point make this like a full segment on the morning show one of these days. I am pretty intrigued about it, but I guess it's not even really necessarily the Eric Swalwell story going on right now, but it's kind of what's unfolded into and the larger story, all the other seemingly junior statesmen that are getting tied up in this same thing. So I kind of want to touch base with you and see what your thoughts are. Have you really been paying attention to this larger story? It doesn't even necessarily have to be Eric Swalwell, but I guess for those who aren't aware of what I'm talking about, I'm just showing here a picture of Eric Swalwell wearing a bathrobe, looking bleary in a wild yacht party video from TMZ. For those who aren't aware, he's kind of been under attack recently. He's dropped out of his race that he was in. I think he left office as well, kind of in shame. There seem to be rape accusations and a whole bunch of things glommed all at once. It's looking more and more like he's a raper every day. I don't know what the truth of it is, but then also there's multiple other seemingly junior statesmen right around the same time, and it kind of transcends the sides of the aisles. It seems to be on both sides. A lot of young people getting taken out by similar sort of things, like I guess you could say degeneracy, debauchery. So I don't know what to make of it all, but I know you like to talk about politics. You cover politics sometimes, political races, and this is kind of, I don't know, it seems to be some sort of blackmail apparatus being triggered right here. So I kind of want to get your thoughts. I didn't know if maybe you had some more insights here, or just general thoughts, or if you've been paying attention to any of this swirling stories around whatever is going on here.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me. This is another one where I haven't been paying too close attention to. I was on vacation until Monday, actually. But I think the blackmail is definitely a plausible theory because the timing of this is interesting in that he was the front runner, I think, for the California governorship race. So, he's been in Congress for years, and it raises questions about why this has been hidden until now. As far as junior statesmen goes, the guy I'm more interested in is Corey Mills. He's got similar allegations surrounding him in terms of women abuse, but the really interesting aspect about him is that he's also doing weapons deals with Ukraine and across the Middle East by himself. Really crazy stories about that have come out in recent months. So I'd keep an eye on Corey Mills too.
Yeah, I know there was, I think it was Drew Hernandez, I think. Is that the name? There's another guy who had his staffer that he was having an affair with died by self-immolation, allegedly, supposedly, a while back. And I guess he just recently dropped out too, since kind of besmirched by all that. But there's a few other people, a few other different accusations. But anyways, I haven't really completely delved much into it either. I just didn't know I didn't realize you just got off vacation. But it's been kind of one I've been just kind of intrigued by, but I haven't really had a chance to take a dive because it almost feels like the boomer politicians are striking back against the junior statesmen who, don't get me wrong, I mean, there definitely is seems to be fire to the smoke there as well, but seems to be a bit of a strategic extermination perhaps. But I don't know. What do I know? But anyway, let's just move on to let's get into the SPLC, FBI stuff. By the way, I do want to let you guys know I do usually pop in the chat and say hello, but when I have a guest, I do not. So if you do want to cut through the noise, you are welcome to super chat, and we will in between each segment poke in. But after Ken's out of here, I will talk to the chat, shoot the shit a little bit. But till then, you got to give money to get through the noise. But let's get into some of this SPLC FBI talk. We covered this the other day in the morning show, so we don't really have to kind of go back to point A and cover all that. My audience, I'm assuming they know what's going on there. We had the recent indictments brought down, or being brought down upon from the DOJ/FBI. Going after the SPLC for $3 million over the course of something like 9 years, claiming that they had been infiltrating right-wing groups, elevating the threat, and using it to justify their funding. Weird, crazy thing that any entity would do that, right, Ken?
Yeah, exactly. And the $3 million in payments actually comes between 2014 and 2023, when a lot of these groups were kind of irrelevant. So it doesn't seem like money very well spent by the SPLC, with the exception the $270,000 paid to somebody who organized the Charlottesville rally that turned into a whole shit show and was actually the impotence allegedly for Joe Biden's presidential run. So the payments themselves aren't as interesting to me as the groups involved, because although there are a lot of old heads who are kind of irrelevant by the 2010s, these groups were really big in the 1980s. We're talking about the National Alliance, which was founded by the guy who wrote the Turner Diaries, which was the book that, inspired Timothy McVeigh and others. The National Alliance also received money from the neo-Nazi bank robbery group in the 80s, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of proceeds in crime were never prosecuted by the DOJ. So it's kind of interesting that they were funded by Nazi bank robbers and the SPLC. You've got the Aryan nations. I'm sure most of your listeners and viewers are familiar with their connections to the OKC bombing. You've got the National Socialist Movement, which was an FBI front group ran by Jeff Scoop, who was also a Charlottesville marcher. There's really some really interesting historical stuff that I would hope that they have records that go farther back than 2014.
What I'm really curious, what I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts, big picture here? I know it's probably a little bit speculative, but I'm a little kind of like, huh? I don't know if you felt that way when this news dropped. It's like, I mean, me and you have studied the Oklahoma City bombing plenty and know that SPLC comes up quite a bit. I just covered that the other day on the show. But it looks more like, let's be real. From my perspective, it's kind of like it's hand in glove. They're kind of, they're working together. If anything, it's more or less that they're a front for the FBI, it seems like. Or even one could make the case that, that the FBI is a front for the SPLC, or one way, or they're both a front for some other something, or, some other impetus. But I guess for me, I'm just kind of like, what the hell? I mean, is it just like a cheap W? Is this red meat for the base? Because I mean, you were just talking $3 million over 9 years. That's a drop in the bucket compared to the FBI informant program. That's nothing. Like, I mean, yeah, we're talking dozens of people, but I mean, hell, I was reading one of the articles the other day, going through it, and it looked like, really only a handful of people were retrieving any sort of substantive amount of money. After that, it seemed to be pretty, nickels and dimes type stuff. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, big picture wise? I find, and I guess we can get a little bit into the minutia, but I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of weird. Like, what is going on here? What are your thoughts?
Well, there's only a couple people mentioned in the indictment, but each SPL source had a number like F27, F9, F43. In fact, it went all the way up to F43. So presumably there are dozens informants, at least 43. So I think when this case gets rolling, we might get some more information. I don't think it was just nickels and dimes, although between 2014 and 2023, that may be the case. Why is this case being broken now when the SPLC has worked hand in glove with the FBI? I just think it's kind of a new regime. Like, the SPLC used to target fringe Nazi groups in the 80s and 90s, and in recent years, it's just been targeting mainstream conservatives, going so far as to directly attacking Trump's patronage network. I mean, you got like Turning Point USA, Moms for Liberty, like Stephen Miller's named on the SPLC hate list. So really, this isn't like a hand in glove situation anymore. You've got Trump's FBI is just getting revenge for how it's been treated for, at least 5 years now. And so, the SPLC is just the tip of the iceberg as far as like these cutouts. And I don't think we're going to get anything more. I think this is just a direct political warfare, but it's still, I got to applaud the DOJ for this one, because even though they have, direct incentives to do this, it's still a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a point a lot in the past, I don't know, a handful of months, that limited hangouts are a good thing. Like, I think this is essentially kind of a pretty textbook limited hangout, but with that, I mean, like, look, like with somebody like you, where this has kind of been your realm of expertise, or what you've really found interest in, this has probably filled in a ton of blanks for you that they're just kind of giving away the goose here. And yeah, okay, they gotta, kind of get some sort of W here, but there's a seeding of the ground. They have to, and this is going to be something that bites them in the ass later when I'm sure reporting, you have multiple eureka moments through all of this, probably, of connecting the dots of information that they kind of willingly conceded. So any thoughts on that? I don't know. It's kind of weird seeing this all happen, knowing what the SPLC has done in the past.
Yeah, just from a journalistic standpoint, it's just a gold mine of information. And I guess the thing that was really new to me is they talk about the SPLC setting up a network of shell companies to filter money to these organizations, which that was not my impression. I just thought it was like bags of cash, handed under the table, which probably would have been the smart thing to do, so this all wasn't documented and you don't have a paper trail. But in reality, yeah, the SPLC was, laundering money through shell companies to these organizations, which I found really interesting.
Well, I guess, and just to highlight this real quick, I think you did mention this a moment ago, but I have this, this quote tweet of yours, of an old thread of yours from a while back, kind of honing in that you kind of, I guess this is almost like a chicken and egg thing. They're kind of all the right wingers are, and I guess, like I said, you're great that they're doing this. Are kind of like, oh, look at what Trump's doing, and he's they're going after the SPLC because they're the ones going after the right wingers and making patsies and yada yada yada. And it's like, obviously, like, this is a great example. The National Socialist movement. It was you've been essentially, through your reporting, discovered that, or I can't remember if it was yours originally or somebody else's. You pieced together so much here. But essentially that the NSM was co-founded by an FBI informant. And so they're talking about this 10-year period that's well after the fact. And so they're showing, and I guess throughout all of this, you discovered that they were funding the NSM. But if you look back, it's like, well, they're kind of, in a sense, the FBI had already gotten there. So like, it is, chicken and egg, the FBI, SPLC, which came first? I think it's pretty obvious the FBI came first in this one.
Yeah, I think the FBI uses the SPLC to do really, when it comes to like gray area with legal wise, because the Attorney General guidelines really supposedly restricts like when they can use informants and for what purposes. And there's a Fourth Amendment, we have a Bill of Rights, but if they want to do really shady things, they could just get the SPLC to do unconstitutional activities, and then they have like a plausible deniability. So I think that's the relationship there. And this is still going on. I would know that they're really trying to clean up corruption if they went after the ADL, because the ADL serves as the exact same purpose. They've had fake Nazi rallies, informants infiltrating, I think even Elohim City. But I don't expect that to happen at all, considering, the tight relationship between Israel and the Trump administration. And the fact that Kash Patel was actually caught lying that he cut ties with the ADL, which was around the same time that they apparently really did cut ties with the SPLC. But a couple months ago, you had them announce the arrest of this group called the Turtle Island Liberation.
Yep.
They were supposedly planning a New Year's Eve bombing. It was like 3 Antifa guys and 3 undercover feds. Well, a couple weeks after that case was announced, you had Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, on camera saying, well, we briefed the FBI about this case. So clearly they're still working with the ADL, which is, unfortunate.
Yeah, wasn't it like they had done like a building move or something? And so because they weren't going to be the same building anymore, they made a big to-do about it as if they were splitting up when really it wasn't quite that simple. I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I thought it was something like that.
I think it was just Kash Patel lying, saying
okay.
that we're, the ADL is a leftist organization, so we're done with them. And I expressed doubts at the time because the ADL's relationship with the FBI goes back way farther than the SPLC's. I mean, this goes back to the Hoover era where they're working hand in glove. So, I really doubted it. And then, I was proven right when Greenblatt announced that they were working with them to take down this leftist group.
Well, I guess blatant lying is par for the course. I guess you covered recently this story of 2 Nazis trying to kill a Patriot Front member, and essentially within this was uncovered like terabytes of evidence that I guess they're not wanting to release yet, but it's looking like a bunch of FBI field offices. Tell us a little about this, because I think this is kind of a modern day example. Obviously, this is Patriot Front too, because this is the go-to. Everyone likes to be like, "Oh, Patriot Front," and then it just becomes this. There's always these viral videos of them marching through somewhere, and then it always becomes this kind of narrative of like, "Oh, look, there's these feds," and then everyone, "Oh, what do you think? Anytime a bunch of white people get together, it's feds," and it's just kind of silly, divisive nonsense when. I don't know. I think there's probably some feds there. Obviously, I don't think it's entirely feds. There's probably some organic component. But I mean, you've definitely been ahead of this one. I mean, we covered the Gletty stuff on this show forever ago. We did that interview. You wrote a piece on it. So I mean, it's kind of been this. A lot of right wing people have tried to front as if there's not really been any blatant or legitimate examples of like right wing. Fed infiltration in groups such as these, but you've definitely proven that wrong. Patriot Front is kind of like the golden, the golden symbol, I guess, for that though, is like if you could prove that, that's kind of will actually pop that bubble perhaps. So here's another example of that. There's been other ones too before. I forget the specifics. There's been other documents that have released that have either straight up basically proven there have been feds or informants of some sorts in this group before, or at least alluded to that fact. But here, once again, we have another such example of looking like they have a whole big operation going on here. So if you want to tell my audience more about that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, my whole thing with the Patriot Front is I think there are just a lot of normal people who join that group. It's kind of like a fit club. They want to train, get in shape, be around other people that are like them. Which is fine, but I do have questions about how it's funded, because by this point, it's definitely a 6-figure operation, possibly even a 7-figure operation when you see how active they are. And then they're not legally incorporated anywhere, so they can't get, unlike the other groups we discussed, like the National Alliance or the Aryan Nations, you can't just donate to them. And so the leader, Thomas Rousseau, says that, well, we're totally self-funded. It's just guys showing up on the weekend, funding their own trips, paying for their own equipment. We go out and march. We do some community activities, train together, and then go back to our day jobs. But I've also seen Thomas Rousseau on like Jake Shields' podcast say they recently did like some hurricane cleanup, and he's talking about like, well, if you want to join, like we'll pay for your plane tickets, we'll give you a chainsaw, like we'll help you out, we'll get you set up. And when you're talking about that, then now it's like a way more expensive operation. The money has to be coming somewhere. Rousseau's totally indigent. He's got like 3 civil judgments against him, extending into millions of dollars. He doesn't even show up to his court dates. He's got a number of civil contempts. So obviously he's drawing a full-time salary off the books from this operation as an organizer. So we're talking about like a serious serious funding that would be required here. Where's maybe it's just like a right-wing millionaire that's helping out. I don't know, but there's some questions that need to be answered there. And then there's the fact that he gives really disingenuous answers whenever like Patrick Bet David or somebody will ask like, oh, are you guys feds? He doesn't talk about the proven instances of FBI informants in his organization. He just kind of knocks down Bet David's straw man and says, well, no, we're not undercover agents. That's ridiculous. Like a little more information about how the thoughts on the informants that have been caught in his organization. But this case here, it's not directly related to the Patriot Front, but it does show that the FBI had a giant multi-state undercover operation to infiltrate the neo-Nazi movement in 2024 and early 2025 until Trump took charge. We don't know a whole lot. Basically, 2 neo-Nazis were paying an undercover agent. They wanted to get like paramilitary training. And during the investigation, the FBI found that they wanted to kill a Patriot Front member, ironically, because they thought the Patriot Front member was an informant. So it kind of, touches right on. Either other neo-Nazis think that they're feds too. We don't know much more. Like the criminal complaint is still sealed. There might be other charges coming down the pipeline. But as you mentioned, there's 4 terabytes of evidence here, and it's a multi-state operation. So it seems like something really glowy was going on at the late stages of the Biden administration.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely seems like something's going on. I guess you could see this. I mean, I don't know if you've really poured into all of these documents, but I guess I see this, and it's like if you have these 4 terabytes and you're not telling where it comes from, like you could think maybe it came from the neo-Nazi side of things, but this could kind of be, I mean, it could really be coming from either side of the house there. It could be from the neo-Nazi, it could be coming from the Patriot Front, especially since these 2 groups are clearly intermingling in some way. So it's not that crazy that they would have to be pulling evidence from both sides if they have some sort of investigation going on both sides.
Yeah.
So, which wouldn't surprise me at all. Obviously, we don't know, but I mean, unless there's something in the documentation that says specifically who the investigation was on or whatever. But I mean, even then, it would still leave it open to like it could have been both. But all right. Anyways, moving on to another investigation, I guess that completely went tits up. The J6 pipe bomb. We've talked about this in the past, but reality has caught up to the blaze, and apparently the former Capitol cop that they accused of being the person to have done it has now filed their lawsuit. So that's where we're at in the story right now. The lawsuit has hit the blow. We'll talk a little bit about the reporter, I guess, towards the end of this, because I guess they got shit canned, and that'll be fun. But I guess I kind of want to focus a little bit on the substantive side of things here. She's filed her lawsuit, but kind of let's talk a little bit what happened to her as a result of all of this, because there's been some reporting that's come out recently. It's given us a little bit more insight to what she supposedly went through. Obviously, now to be very clear, I'm also very open to the idea that this was like some sort of I don't know, how do I put this? Not to sound too incredibly schizophrenic, but yeah, like I'm open to this lady being involved, but I'm. We covered the reporting of Steve Baker, and if she is involved, it's almost as if you're like, oh, are you writing this to cover her ass or something? Yeah. Like, what is this? Or it's just that abysmal of reporting. I guess you could take it either way. But I'm open to her being involved, but that doesn't really change the fact of whether this was reliable reporting. Your reasoning for why she's involved should probably, be solid, I guess. But it definitely fell short, since it was basically gate analysis given to you by some fucking Fed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's my position too, is that I think Baker might have been onto something with his reporting, but he presents literally no evidence. His story was published November 8th. It accuses this Shawnee Kirchhoff, former Capitol police officer, of being the J6 pipe bomber, and it comes to that conclusion on so-called gait analysis, which is analyzing how somebody walks. Apparently, he had like an NSA contractor run footage of Shawnee seen on J6, like in her police uniform, compared to the person on January 5th walking around placing the devices by the DNC and the RNC. And it was like a 94% match, but he won't name who did the face or the gait recognition analysis. We don't get to see it. So really it's based entirely on anonymous sources. And when the story published, everybody just automatically said, oh, case closed. It's definitely Shawnee. I expressed doubts just because the reporting was so shoddy. I mean, he has skin in the game, and the fact that he actually had the balls to name her. So it's not just insinuations, but the fact that he didn't release any evidence, I found to be incredibly dubious. Everybody said for months, well, she hasn't sued yet, so that proves that Steve's right. Even after they arrested another guy who I think might indeed be a patsy. But now we do have the lawsuit, and it really gives some interesting details about how Baker went about reporting his story. Apparently, he went to this NSA contractor. They did the gait recognition analysis, and then he took his findings to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the agency that's headed by Tulsi Gabbard. Basically, its job is to like aggregate intelligence from the CIA, FBI, NSA, and so forth, and sort of, combine it and make sense of it. But so Steve takes his findings to somebody with the ODNI. The ODNI types up a memo based off of what Baker told them, and then gives that to the FBI. And then the FBI raids Shawnee. And then later, when it comes out that the FBI raided Shawnee, Steve Baker claims vindication, but it's like, it's your tip to the FBI that was given to the FBI that caused this whole, it's like, he did exactly what the people in like the Russiagate scandal did with the Steele dossier, where Hillary pays for this, dossier. It's given to the law enforcement agencies who opened an investigation into Trump and Russia, but it was all spurred on, politically motivated vendetta in the first place. Well, this is Baker all over. And so Shawnee, apparently the FBI brought bomb squad, a helicopter to her house. This is like 2 days before the story's published. She's interrogated, subjected to a 3-hour interrogation and a polygraph test that comes back with like some stress in her voice when she denies being the pipe bomber. Of course, if we're to believe her story with like a helicopter hovering overhead, I'd have some stress too. So I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, she failed a lie detector test. But the upshot of this is like she has some real like claims for damages against the Blaze and Steve Baker, who still hasn't issued an apology, even though they retracted his story. He's sticking to it. He's since been fired by the Blaze, but he started his own little startup media outlet, and he's still pointing the finger at Shawnee. So it should be interesting. I think he's going to go down in a blaze of glory, pardon the pun. He still has not released any evidence. And he's saying, oh, well, the discovery is going to be really interesting. I don't see what he could expect to get out of discovery. This was almost 6 years ago at this point. We'll see, though.
I mean, he's talking about discovery, though, but he does have a habit of evading discovery, does he not?
Well, sure. I think you're referencing to him being a J6er, where he gets arrested in early 2024, and then he postures like he's going to fight his charges to the end. He's posting about all these cringe posts about, hey, give me liberty or give me death. And then the week before his trial, which I think would have been pretty embarrassing for him, proved that he wasn't acting as a journalist. He just pleads guilty. And, I don't think he should have been charged in the first place, just like the 1,000 other J6ers that were charged just for going inside. But it just shows kind of how flaky he is and kind of what a joke he is, in my opinion, because especially this was after Trump won the election. So if it were me, I would have still gone through the trial, knowing that Trump was about to take office in a couple of weeks. And I wouldn't be going to prison. So I just think he was trying to hide something.
Yeah, I mean, he was grifting super hard off that too. So it's a little frustrating, especially when we've known. I've like interviewed other J6ers and stuff, and you're like, tried to get the word out about him, and his name just like just shoots up. Everyone acts like he was an amazing reporter, and he was like, okay. Like, I don't know. So I've kind of scoped him out from the jump. Like, what the fuck is up with this guy? I remember when he first was kind of running this grift back in the day, he was bloviating about how cool it was that people like Alan Dershowitz were talking about taking on his case. And that's when I kind of side-eyed him from the jump. Like, what the fuck is this guy's deal? As he's grifting off a whole libertarian vibe. And you're like, I mean, this is before, I guess, the Epstein stuff got really to where it is now, to give him a little bit of credit. But I don't know. Someone trying to front as if there's some big liberty warrior, and then they're going on about like, oh yeah, Dershowitz, or not Dershowitz, is it? Yeah, Alan Dershowitz is going to take my case, or might take my case pro bono because it's such a landmark case. To me, I go, oh well, that's, if anything, you're just showing me that like, if this is a landmark case and you're going to let Dersh touch it, then you're either too stupid to be on my team or not on my team. Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, I think his old name before he was a J6er, he ran a blog called like the Pragmatic Libertarian or the Pragmatic Constitutionalist. And I think like the key word there is pragmatic. Will compromise his actual morals for when it's useful to him.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's still focus a little bit on the J6 stuff. Apparently, New York Mag just recently published something about the DOJ's working group. Because this is something they've been floating out for a while, J6 justice. So what's going on with that? What's going on with this weaponization group that should have been really focusing on things like the Whitmer kidnapping and stuff like that? Have we gotten any pardons there? What's going on? Are we getting anything on the weaponization of the feds, or is anything good gonna come of this? What do you think?
Yeah, the DOJ weaponization group was formed in the initial stages of the Trump administration, and it was headed by a guy named Ed Martin, who was a lawyer for some J6ers, and staffed by a former FBI agent who was charged for participating in the Capitol incursion, Jared Wise. So it seemed like it had some people who knew where the bodies were buried and would actually be able to do some interesting work. Apparently, they ran into a lot of red tape just dealing with their bosses and in trying to do anything of substance. And, 18 months later, it looks like they're not going to actually charge any like FBI officials who were involved in J6. They're not going to do anything to shine light on the Whitmer case. They're just going to issue reports on things that we've already had covered by Congress, like the FBI spying on Catholics, spying on, moms protesting at school board meetings, a lot of stuff that there was bad behavior by the FBI during the Biden years, but it didn't really result in anybody going into prison. And it's just pretty disappointing. It's another L for the Trump DOJ. I mean, Ed Martin, in his initial months, he actually said, we're going to investigate the Whitmer case. And this was like really promising that he was willing to put that on the record. But then I think Trump had a meeting with Whitmer a couple weeks later. They're trying to work on some trade deal where Whitmer's involved. And she told him, no, do not pardon these men. And he sided with Whitmer. So that was a pretty bad sign at the time. And now it's been confirmed by this New York Magazine article, which says, like, yeah, they're just going to issue some reports, which is the same thing that Congress did.
All right, let's move on to the Iranian assassination stuff. Let's talk about that. This has kind of become a big deal, hasn't it? As of late, we're kind of still embroiled in this Iranian war that's not a war. In a dealing with elevated gas prices, putting us in a very weird situation as we have multiple other things going on. We got the Epstein files. I mean, there's so many big, I don't know, catastrophes with this administration that I've forgotten about. Hell, we had the ICE killing stuff. I mean, they've had issue after issue after issue. Iranian war being the latest of them, but this is something we kind of had our eyes on pretty early. I mean, let's be real. It's not too surprising that the establishment went after Iran. They've been teasing that for decades. But that's kind of always the go-to. We're going to try to blame it on Iran. And they did that almost immediately after some of the Trump assassination attempts, and they kind of blurred the lines of what they're really talking about, of like, oh, well, maybe we mean this Asif Merchant thing, maybe we mean this other thing over here, kind of playing hide the ball. And you've done a good job of kind of pointing out, I don't know, maybe where there's more than meets the eye to a lot of these, and it's something you can just kind of hand wave and go, Iran. Because we end up in a situation like we are now, where we've, I believe the president's actually like directly said a couple times, kind of alluding to that played a big part in where we're at now, kind of him believing that perhaps the Iranians tried to kill him, and here we are. So I guess we could probably focus in on the Asif Merchant case, kind of from the jump, like what's the latest in that? I was just skimming through this a minute ago, and I didn't realize that apparently we have confirmation of some sort now that the Israelis were involved in assisting with information. I know I've been covering the ins and outs of some of the documents a while back, and I remember there was something that highly implied that, due to the type of technology they were using. It's pretty much almost exclusively an Israeli thing, but you couldn't prove it. But it sounds like now we're there now. Also, we have a ton of evidence being kept secret. So obviously this took on whole new life too with some of the recent Kent stuff, him talking to Tucker Carlson, him leaving, implying perhaps there's more than meets the eye here. So I know wherever you want to go with this, there's a lot here, obviously.
Yeah, sure. So, Mashant's trial actually was ongoing the week that the war started, which it's like, how is this guy ever going to get a fair trial when it's like day 2, Trump assassinates Khomeini, and then the next day he's like, well, he tried to get me and I got him first. Pete Hegseth made similar statement saying, they tried to kill Trump. This was at the time where they're just throwing anything against the wall and trying to see what sticks as far as like a justification for the war goes. Like, oh, is it nuclear? Is it a threat to Israel? Is it a threat to America? Or is it like, oh, they were trying to assassinate Trump? Well, this was pretty big in the media for about a week. They even reported that a couple days later, they killed the official that was in charge of Iran's assassination programs. And yeah, the New York Times then did a deep dive on this, revealing that the initial intelligence that Iran was trying to assassinate Trump came from Israel. And so they gave this intelligence to Israel about Asif Merchant, who was then, once the U.S. gets this, they allowed Merchant into the country as part of a sting operation. He was introduced to an FBI informant. This is like April, May 2024. The informant drove him around everywhere he went while he was in America. He didn't even have a car. The informant introduces him to two undercover FBI agents who were posing as mafia hitmen. They took him to a strip club, had some meetings where they discussed possibly assassinating U.S. officials, although they never settled on Trump. Merchant tells them, come visit me in Pakistan, and then you'll get the targets there. He gives them $5,000 that he had to scrounge up from overseas. There's a lot of questions about the FBI informants' involvement in helping them get that funding. But he gives that to the agents, and then he goes to leave the country, crazily enough, on July 12th, 2024, which was the day before Trump was shot in Butler. He's arrested. He's been held in solitary confinement ever since then. The case finally gets announced in August 2024. Everybody automatically assumes it has something to do with Butler. He's goes through his trial, like a month or two ago. And the really bizarre thing is that he did testify on the last day that, yes, I worked for Iran. Somebody in the IRGC put me up to this. That's really the only evidence we have that Iran was involved, is his testimony, which, you might think that's strong evidence. But first of all, I have real questions about why his lawyer let him admit his guilt after pleading not guilty and going to trial. Really bizarre. And I don't think he had all his marbles. Like, I don't really think he was there, all there in the head. Just based off his whole behavior, it's just really bizarre. So even if we're going to give the benefit of the doubt and say that, yes, maybe somebody in Iran's government did tell him to do this, never had a specific target, never had a plan, never had a venue, had a date, didn't have any means to pull this off. It was totally fabricated by the FBI. So even if he had some kind of intent, he didn't have any means. And as Joe Kent actually said on Tucker Carlson's show, you gauge the threat by combining intent with the means. And if he didn't have any means, I'd argue there still wasn't any threat, and that they let him into the country on purpose. Doesn't even speak English, just to fabricate, this politically charged case and kind of use it as war propaganda.
I think I was just scrolling through this just now. I'm seeing that you said they put an order in this to hide the evidence, and you made the parallels to the Ryan Routh case. I guess in the Ryan Routh case, their reasoning was national security. They didn't say that in this case, did they? Nowhere was it alluded to that. You said they didn't go into as much detail, but either way, regardless, I mean, that's still interesting that they're sealing information here. And in the Ryan Routh case, there's obviously they're doing it for national security. So was there a national security component to this? No, or do they not give any sort of reasoning for why?
Yeah, because it's classified information, which automatically implies that it's related to national security. The thing with the Ruth case is Judge Cannon signed an order that specifically said that if information was divulged, this classified information could damage national security. The judge never went that far here, but he pretty much just allowed them to hide over 1.6 million items of evidence. And usually this relates to identities of informants or information obtained through FISA. So it's really a mystery of what's in there. Perhaps the most interesting thing is some conversations Merchant had with the informant in Urdu. Like, we don't get to see the transcripts. You'd have to translate them regardless. But I think that could possibly show that the informant was more than just a listening post that was going along with the plans. I think the informant was probably actively encouraging him in this. And so that would be exculpatory evidence that he never got to see, and that we're never going to get to see, that would prove what a sham this all is.
All right. Do you know where the case is currently sitting at? I have the most recent of yours I was able to see. Apparently the most recent thing I've seen is they filed a motion for acquittal, saying that they never reached an agreement to kill any politician, any sort of specific agreement, Trump or otherwise, which you were just saying that a minute ago, is that was essentially that they never got to any specific anything. So do you know what the status is that it's been? I think this was the 14th, so it's been about 10 days. Do you know if anything's come of that since? I'm curious, because that seems pretty legit. Seems a pretty legit argument to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything unless it was filed in the last couple days. I think we're still at that stage. He was found guilty, but we haven't even gotten to the sentencing stage. I doubt this motion for acquittal will be granted. Jury convicts. You're not going to get a motion for acquittal right after that. Maybe we'll get something on appeal, but I don't know. I'm actually surprised this was filed at all, because I just thought it was really legal malpractice, almost like they wanted to find the guy guilty. And I've got to mention his lawyer is a guy named Abraham Moskowitz, who is a self-identified Zionist who declined to represent Khalid Sheikh Mohammed after 9/11. And there's quotes from him in the New York Times where he's saying, like, I can't represent KSM because, like, my very essence represents a conflict of interest. But some 25 years later, he's willing to take on this case, which I would say poses even more of a conflict of interest. And I wonder what's changed. I haven't brought this up very many times because I don't want to impugn the guy. I don't know how hard he's working on this case behind the scenes. But then after he lets his client testify and admit guilt in front of a jury, I just can't. It's very bizarre.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Crooks scenario, the Crooks case. I guess there was some more information released by the FBI recently. The one that seems the most interesting is the one you led off with here, is some of the reports released. Apparently there was, I guess, within one of these memos that the FBI dropped, you can see right here, redacted reported just before Donald Trump came on stage, Crooks was making hateful comments toward Trump. Redacted. Wasn't sure if Crooks was filming the event or speaking with someone on his cell phone. So it sounds like someone saw him just saying hateful stuff. I'd like more information there, but any thoughts on this? Then I guess we can divert into maybe just general Crooks craziness, and then obviously the Iran connection possibly, because I know that was something kind of alluded to with the whole recent Kent shenanigans with him leaving his intelligence office and going on Tucker, implying perhaps there could have been some connection there. They weren't allowed to look into it, so.
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing here is that, again, it proves how either ignorant or deceitful Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are. Because, a couple months ago, they say, hey, we've released everything we can on this case. But the reason that these memos are coming out is thanks to a lawsuit filed by the great organization Judicial Watch, which basically its whole purpose is to sue the government for records. They filed a lawsuit on the anniversary in 2025. There was a status report in January that says they finally agreed that the FBI is going to produce records. And it said in the status report that there are 44,000 records that are responsive to Judicial Watch's FOIA lawsuit. And so the FBI has been trickling them out, only about like 30 or 40 a month. So at this pace, we're not going to get all the records. We'll be long dead before all the records are out. It's kind of like a Kennedy assassination situation. Hopefully Judicial Watch can file something to compel them to speed up the pace of disclosure. I know Jesse Trenadu did that with his recent Oklahoma City FOIA lawsuit where he said, they want to give me 500 pages a month. I'll be dead before I get them all. So he successfully motioned for a judge to order the FBI to, I think, produce 5,000 a month. Hopefully we'll see something like that here. As far as the records themselves, there hasn't been too much interesting. I mean, what you have on your screen here is a witness interview. Somebody was at the rally and told the FBI that we saw somebody that they thought was Crooks having an altercation with a group by the AGR building earlier in the day. I wouldn't really put too much stock into it. I don't know if this was really Crooks or somebody that looked like Crooks, although that is worthy to mention just because there were many false sightings throughout the day, including by the police who two of the snipers up in the AGR building said that they saw Crooks at 4:26 p.m. And this gets widely reported and put into like congressional record. But then a couple of weeks later after the shooting, a video showing Crooks walking on the other side of the property at the same time was published, meaning that the cops couldn't have seen Crooks, which raises all kinds of questions about who did they see? Were there decoys there, or were the cops, I don't know, if you want to get really cynical, were they trying to set up some kind of paper trail of like, well, we tried to catch the kid? I wouldn't go that far, but again, numerous false sightings. So it is interesting as far as that goes.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on any sort of Iranian connections here? I know that was something brought up. I believe, if I recall correctly, Tucker asked, was it? I always want to say Jonathan Kent, although I don't think that's correct. I think that's Superman's dad, but Kent, whatever, whatever his first name is. But I believe they asked him if he had looked into connections between the Asif Merchant case and if there were any connection between that and the Crooks thing. And I believe he said he got shot down, if I'm recalling correctly. So what are your thoughts on any of that? I mean, obviously we just talked about how they're shielding tons of information, so I guess that's kind of the obvious there, if that could be the case. But I don't know, any thoughts on the interconnectedness of any of this? If there could be some sort of, I'm not saying Iran is necessarily pulling the strings, but perhaps there's our FBI is known for having undue relations with other certain nations as well. So,
yeah. Well, Joe Kenson, I don't know what to make of him, to be frank, because he goes on Tucker Carlson's and Scott Horton's where he said he read my reporting, which is cool of him to say, but then he's talking to them and he says specifically that I wanted to know if the FBI informant who was pretty much handling Merchant, whether the informant had ties to Crooks, whether they had any communications. I don't see how one could be related to the other on the surface, but the fact that he was trying to look into that, I think it's at least worth exploring. But then he goes on other shows saying specifically that he wanted to see if Merchant had any connections to Crooks, and he kind of omits the informant angle to the whole story. And so I don't know why he's changing his story. It's kind of bizarre, but
CIA does weird shit.
So at the very least, one could say, it has to cross your mind. They arrest Merchant the day before Butler. If the assassination attempt was successful, were they going to pin it on Iran? Are these two cases related? One hell of a coincidence that all this happens in the span of like 36 hours, Merchant getting arrested, and then Trump getting shot, like 18 hours. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I'm writing a book about this. I don't go that far. At the very least, though, we can say that, it's like the same argument that Trevor Aronson makes, that the FBI concocts these sting operations and then misses the real terrorism. So the FBI lets Merchant into the country in 2024, has an informant and two undercover agents closely associated with them for months. And while they're fabricating this case, they totally miss Crooks and totally miss Ruth. So at the very least, we can say that. And then there's also, to the more conspiratorial end, though, the reason that Secret Service snipers were sent to Butler was because the Secret Service got intelligence from the FBI about an Iranian threat that was the Merchant case. So the head of of Trump's security team learns about the Merchant case, has the snipers at Butler for the first time ever that Secret Service snipers guard a candidate, somebody who's not actually in the government. And those snipers are the ones that didn't do anything in response to Crooks. It was actually a local cop who saved the day. The sniper from the Secret Service waited 15 seconds to return fire. So that's very odd. If those Secret Service snipers weren't there, you would have had local snipers guarding Trump. And I could almost guarantee that the local snipers would have done a better job because they had local radios. The Secret Service didn't have like the local radio, so they didn't hear all the activity about them chasing Crooks for like 10 minutes before the shooting started. And those local snipers would have had that chatter, and they presumably would have been more laser focused on the AGR building.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't they recently, in the early on the Trump administration, doesn't like Israel have some sort of like detachment in the FBI, and then vice versa, like we have some sort of detachment in their Israeli intelligence or something like that? some weird. I mean, just saying it's quite helpful that they're able to be there with this intelligence in these times of need. It's coming quite in handy. See, like as we've talked about today, I mean, they were able to come in with this information in the Merchant case. So I'm saying it seems to work out. Hey, they're ahead of the curve when it comes to intelligence methods. So why not take advantage of that? There's
they're
no
greatest ally. I don't know about the FBI being embedded. Or no, sorry. I do know the FBI is embedded its agents within the IDF. That's something I actually talked about on your show a year ago. That's in the DOJ press release. I don't know if it's the other way around, that Israel has actual agents within the Bureau. I think the relationship there would be through groups like the ADF or the ADL, which does have IDF, a lot of acronyms here. ADL is IDF agent in it, and then the ADF serves as a cutout for the FBI. So there's definitely some links there. But yeah, we don't know for sure that there's like IDF agents in the FBI.
Yeah, I can remember. I knew it was something like that. It was some sort of attachment. I know they made all sorts of new little weird offices and stuff, and made their connections even more grosser. But okay, before I let you go, I guess probably ought to. We talked about Ryan. I guess we sort of talked about Ryan Ralph. If there's anything new there, I guess you can let me know. Although I think they've kind of wrapped everything on that front. I don't know if we're going to get a whole lot new information on the Ryan Ralph front. Although there's a lot of weirdness to that story for sure, which we've covered quite extensively, me and you on this show multiple times. If there's anything new, feel free to go into that. But I know there was another Iranian that I believe he was kind of more recent. I always forget his name. I always want to call him like Pezeshkian or whatever. Even though I know that's the president of Iran. But there's another guy recently. He's kind of early on in the court process. Maybe you'll remember who I'm talking about. But do you know what I'm talking about? What's going on? Is there any new information on the other guy, the other Iranian, or maybe he was Pakistani? I forget. There was some other like weird Iran connection of a Trump assassination attempt or something like that. I think we are still kind of being cock-blocked by the feds by any sort of information, if I recall correctly, where that one was at.
Yeah, Merchant's the Pakistani guy. This other guy you referred to is, I think his name's like Robert Shakiri.
Yeah,
he's actually still in Iran, if he's still alive. And the really intriguing thing about that case is it's announced a couple days after Trump wins the election. There's all these reports about him clearing house at the FBI. And then they announced this case, and you've got quotes from Christopher Wray saying like, oh, we thwarted a assassination attempt on Trump. And I think it was a last ditch effort from Wray to like save his job. And this case is even more dubious than the Merchant one, because the actual charges are murder for hire for like two New York street thugs to kill this Iranian journalist. She's like a dissident who's like pro-monarchist, anti-current government, does a lot of pro-Western propaganda, like that lady with the frizzy hair. So they're charged with being hired to kill her. And the FBI gets this information from Shakiri, who is in Iran serving as an informant, giving the FBI information in exchange to get one of his buddies out of U.S. prison. And as an aside, he says, also, my government is trying to kill Trump. I talked to somebody at IRGC about this. They said they're waiting until after the election, and when Trump loses, like his security will be lowered and they'll get him then. And the FBI just puts this in his criminal complaint, essentially burning Shakiri and then listing him as a defendant in this murder for hire plot. And so, yeah, if I'm the Iranian government and I see this guy like talking shit about me, I don't know what happened to him. I think they burned their own informant just to get the headline. And then when the indictment comes out a couple months later, there's no information about a Trump assassination plot. So they didn't even present that to a grand jury. That's just like a sentence that was included in the like arrest warrant affidavit, just because they knew the media would seize on that and it would become a big story. So, you know, it's funny that when I post about these cases, especially when this was big in the news like a month ago, I got a lot of like Foundation for Democracy, a lot of like pro-Israel people called me a conspiracy theorist, and they'd post like links to that press release about these supposed assassination plots, saying like, oh, these conspiracy people don't read. But like none of these people have actually read the details of the case. So, I've challenged some people to debates. Nobody wants to do that. I know you even offered to facilitate a debate between me and some like IDF sergeant, but nobody even really wants to get into the details of this.
Yeah, it doesn't look good when you flesh it out. If anything, you have to be the conspiracy theorist to believe it, or just not pay attention and take everything that you see at face value. But Ken, it was a pleasure having you back on the show. I'll let you get out of here. We'll move on to the foreign policy of the show. Let people know where they can find you at.
At Twitter on JD_cashless, at headlineusa.com is where we got all our news articles. And then hopefully I'll be having a book out soon on the Trump assassination plots. Be happy to send you a copy when it's finally out.
Hell yeah, I'd appreciate that. I'm sure it'll be kick-ass. Hopefully they don't keep adding little notes to this story so you can finally get it over, but it seems to be still developing. So I don't know, one of these days we'll get the book. But appreciate you coming with us for today. We'll get you on another time, I'm sure. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye. All right, guys, let's get into the foreign policy side of the show. Let's say a few good mornings, though. Let's check in. Who's some of the early risers? Let's say some good mornings to everybody. And then after I've given you good morning, you guys know the deal. After that, you got to leave a super chat. And I forgot to give the normal little screed at the beginning of the show. For those who don't like hearing me chit-chat with the chat, just go down to the podcast video description. You should see, assuming it's been a little bit after I drop the episode, you should see some timestamps there, and you move on to the next segment, and then you don't have to hear me chit-chat. Usually I save the chit-chat to after every segment. Obviously I had a guest today, so we didn't chat as much, but yeah, between this one and the next one, if you don't want to, we're about to go into the chat, so if you don't like this right now, go down and click on foreign policy, the foreign policy roundup. That'll be the next segment, and that'll bring you past all this. But I'm going to say hello to hello to the people. Say hello to the dumpers, because that's what I like to do. Give everybody a nice good morning. Good morning, Guy Vermectin. Good morning, good morning. And then after that, you got to leave. You got to catch my interest or catch my wallet. That's what we say here. So you can leave a super chat if you would like, and then I will read it. Good morning, Qbert. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. Saying it was weird. I guess the stream started and it shot me over to another pod. So that's weird. That's quite the new type of shadow banning they got there. Good morning, Sir Han Solo. Here's King David reminding y'all to hit the like button. Yes, please help me out because they do weird shenanigans like that. Good morning, GitHub. Good morning. Good morning. Saying good morning to all you beautiful dumpers. Good morning, Neil. Saying morning, dumpers. Good morning, Tom33. Good morning, Tower Gang NPC. P. Tracer correcting me. Good morning to you, by the way, with Tony Gonzalez. I believe I said Aaron Hernandez. Isn't that like a football player? Isn't that the guy like killed some people or something? Yeah, whatever. I mean, this guy, they both killed some people, it seems. Good morning, Screwed Up Rebellion. Says, Happy Franco Friday. I don't know what that is, but happy Franco Friday to you as well. And good morning, good morning. He's saying Corey Mills is a Muzzy-loving trader. Well, I don't know enough about Corey Mills. So, but SPLC does suck. Says their influence on media narratives, government policy, and public school curriculum is way more important. Okay, perhaps they are. I'm definitely glad to see them getting some shit, so that's cool. Good morning, K-Sharp. Saying racism and bigotry are so rare, they must be fabricated. Yeah, it does sure seem that way, doesn't it? Good morning, Derp with Gerp. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Ray and Cap. Saying cheating liar detection test is easy. It's how I beat my multiple grape charges. Fact. Okay. All right. Don't know what to make of that one, Ray and Cap. It was a joke. Like if that's like that is the joke. Like ha ha ha. That's how I beat my charges. Something about the delivery. You aren't able to go ha ha. So it makes me go okay. Maybe he's being serious. I'm glad you beat the charges, I guess. I don't know how to answer that one. Good morning, Mr. Wokereich. Good morning, good morning. See, SPLC should have paid Targeting. They should have. Cubert says there's no way me and Ken don't share genealogical DNA. This nigga looks like Jose's asshole big brother. I don't know. I guess I could see that. I could say we look like. I'm not saying he's asshole. He's just got the look. I could see him being the brother, being my big brother. But I think we're about the same age. I think he might be like a year or two older than me. I'm not sure. Good morning, Daz. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, JC. Good morning, Fire Pixie. All right, guys, let's get into some foreign policy. Said a bunch of good mornings. We're moving on. Let's get into the latest in war world. Apparently, we've boarded another Iranian ship, so this won't end badly, right? No big whoop. So, U.S. forces board another Iran-linked tanker in the Indian Ocean. Trump said he ordered U.S. forces to shoot and kill Iranian vessels if they lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Pentagon said Thursday U.S. forces boarded another tanker in the Indian Ocean that it said was carrying Iranian oil as the U.S. continues to force a blockade against Iran. This overnight, U.S. forces carried out a maritime interdiction and right of visit boarding of the sanctioned stateless vessel MT Majestic X, transporting oil from Iran in the Indian Ocean. The U.S. War Department said in a post on X that included a video of U.S. forces boarding the vessel. So we covered the other day that they boarded a Iran tanker in the Indian Ocean, but, well, they did it again. So this marks the second tanker they've boarded in the Indian Ocean that was seized by U.S. forces, and this is a third ship that was seized by U.S. forces. The other one was in the Strait, kind of. On Wednesday, Iran's IRGC seized 2 ships in the Strait of Hormuz, so I guess we're playing tit for tat now. Despite the U.S. enforcement in the blockade, many Iranian ships have been getting through, according to ship tracking data. The Financial Times reported on Wednesday at least 34 ships with links to Iran have made it through the U.S. blockade, including 19 tankers that exited the Persian Gulf and 15 that entered the Gulf from the Arabic Sea. But then on Thursday, I guess Trump says now he's ordering to shoot and kill. So I don't know what to make of this. I mean, they were supposed to be blockading, and they've only stopped a couple, but a lot have been getting through. So I guess now we're at shoot to kill. But that's for if they're laying mines, to be clear, though. So although it's unclear if mines are being put in the waterway since Iran has been enforcing its control over the strait with drones. So Trump says, I have ordered all the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats though they may be. Their naval ships are all, 159 of them at the bottom of the sea, that is putting mines in the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. There is to be no hesitation. Additionally, our mine sweepers are clearing the strait right now. I'm hereby ordering that activity to continue, but at a tripled up level. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, just... great. Also, we have the Navy Secretary is out. So John Phelan is leaving the Pentagon and the Trump administration after months of infighting with senior Pentagon leaders. So it's kind of reports say sort of stuff, but he was fired. So interesting with all the musical chairs that are happening over in the Department of War. The Navy Secretary about. We've lost a ton of generals. This is pretty unique stuff for an award, generally associated with not good. So CENTCOM says third U.S. aircraft carriers arrived in the Middle East as Trump warns Iran the clock is ticking. So we got another carrier showing up. I'm sure that means time for peace, right, guys? CENTCOM said on Thursday the USS George H.W. Bush has arrived in its area of responsibility in the Middle East, making it the third U.S. aircraft carrier in the region amid growing signs that the very fragile U.S.-Iran ceasefire may collapse. This is the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS George H.W. Bush sails in the Indian Ocean in the U.S. Central Command Area Responsibility April 23rd, CENTCOM said in a post on X. So we got building up the area, so that's great. And then we also got Trump calling for the killing of Iranian leaders who don't want to accept their demands. I'm sure just continually murdering their leaders will help. Although I will give them some ups here. In the past, they've been murdering the leaders that were actually more amenable to the sorts of demands the U.S. has. Like, remember when we just recently killed the leader of the nation, the one guy who seemingly didn't really want to have nukes? You know, the whole dude had a literal religious edict attached to his name for not having nukes. Yeah, we killed that guy. So I know this does seem like an improvement in some regards if you're going to kill the guys who won't accept U.S. demands as opposed to the ones who would be open to doing so. I know there's been multiple other major figures we've either us or Israel have murdered through all of this that were actually some of the more peacenik type ones, the moderates, if you will. So we've been radicalizing them over there. So this would be, funny enough, a change in direction. So, although I wouldn't suggest it either. Trump on Thursday shared a post calling for the killing of Iranian leaders who won't accept U.S. demands, ramping up his threats against the country amid a very fragile ceasefire. So this is, let me just go ahead and read it. Never mind. The post Trump Amplify was written by Mark Thiessen, who served as a speechwriter for the George W. Bush administration. My bad. If there are two factions in Iran, one that wants a deal and one that doesn't, let's kill the ones who don't want a deal, Thiessen said in a post on X where he was quoting himself from an appearance on Fox News. It says Thiessen also made the case to kill Iranian leaders in an op-ed published by the Washington Post on Wednesday titled, "Trump doesn't need to deal to get what he wants from Iran," which President Trump also shared on his Truth Social account. In the piece, Thiessen argued that Trump should restart the bombing campaign against Iran. Right now, the remnants of the Iranian regime are under the impression that Trump wants a deal more than they do, he wrote. Trump needs to disabuse them of that notion. He has reportedly told Iran that it has 3 to 5 days to make a serious counteroffer. If it fails to do so, he should resume combat operations, starting with strikes targeting Iran's recalcitrant leaders. If the Iranian regime is really fractured between a faction that wants a deal and a faction that does not, there's a simple solution. Kill the faction that does not, Thiessen said. Thiessen said the U.S. should maintain the blockade and claimed the U.S. military should open the Strait of Hormuz by force, and that it just needed 14 more days to finish the job against Iran. The Trump administration has pushed the narrative that Iran's military has essentially been obliterated, but Iran was able to continue missile and drone attacks throughout the entire war. And according to U.S. officials speaking to the New York Times, U.S. intelligence assesses that Tehran likely has access to the majority of its missiles and launchers. So, looks like they're implying they're going to kill some more Iranian leaders. Also, as this is going on, we have some more insanity. It's been quite the thing in this whole Iran war. The Trump paradigm of like negotiating on the world stage via Truth Social, and it's been pretty absurd a lot of times, but I don't know if it's reached this level of absurdity quite yet. This one is astounding. Apparently Trump has been making fake concessions out here. I don't know how to cover this. This started with, you can see this like a quote tweet of a quote tweet of a quote tweet. I mean, it's on Truth Social, so it's a little bit different, but originally it's Ayal Yokabi says breaking the Islamic Republic is preparing to hang 8 women, which Ayal Yokabi is a complete Israeli apparatchik. He is just complete slop. Just literally just stumping for Israel. That's him. And, shares all sorts of bullshit. He's like a less egregious male loomer, essentially. So here's his post. Breaking the Islamic Republic is preparing to hang 8 women. Not a word from the international community or so-called human rights organizations. And so Donald says, he quote tweets this, or quote truths it, or whatever you want to call it. It says, to the Iranian leaders who will soon be in negotiations with my representatives, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I am sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. Would be a great start to our negotiations. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. And then he later, quote, truths himself or whatever of that previous post and says, very good news. I have just been informed that the 8 women protesters who were going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. 4 will be released immediately and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as President of the United States and terminated the planned execution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. All right, in short, this is complete and utter fucking bullshit. Now, I guess to give the tiniest bit of credit here, there's like some truth in it. And when they said they were preparing to hang 8 women, there weren't 8 women preparing to be hung. There were, some of those women were women who can be confirmed to have been in some sort of legal jeopardy of some sort. Some of them have already been released, but so sort of not really even close to, even kind of close to being what they said they're preparing to hang 8 women. But some of these women have, some were already released. I think at least a few of them were already released from some previous something or other. None of them were being prepared to be hung, as far as I'm aware. So completely bullshit. Here's Murtaza Hussein, from Drop Site News. It says Trump seems to be inventing fake concessions given to him by the Iranians to make it appear that he is building leverage and goodwill for the negotiations that he's still trying to engineer. Whatever the outcome, this is very low IQ and mentally ill behavior, which should be considered intolerable for the leader of what is considered to be the most important country in the world. So that's that's something. That sure is something. The complete bullshit, basically. Not even the tiniest bit of not bullshit. Basically, completely and utterly bullshit. But I guess I'm glad those women aren't getting hung. Let's check in a little bit on kind of, we talked about a minute ago about how they're kind of making this look as if it's the hardliners and the moderates here. Let's read one of Trump's truths, and then I want to read what Trita Parsi has to say about it. So Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know. The infighting is between the hardliners, who have been losing badly on the battlefield, and the moderates, who are not very moderate at all, but gaining respect, is crazy. We have total control over the Strait of Hormuz. No ship can enter or leave without the approval of the United States Navy. It is sealed up tight until such time as Iran is able to make a deal. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So making this a hardliners and moderates type thing. I mean, we just talked about how one of his guys was saying, well, then just kill the hardliners. I don't think that'll work. I think you might just make more hardliners. But here's Trita Parsi. He said Trump is pushing a narrative that the failure to get a deal is due to the divisions and disarray within the Iranian government, rather than his ever-changing red lines, undisciplined use of social media, and unrealistic demands. There is not much evidence for Trump's claims, yet it does serve key purposes. It shifts the blame onto Iran rather than the obvious patterns in Trump's approach within the American discourse. Here he has been quite successful since the U.S. media is largely going with his narrative despite the lack of evidence to support it. Similarly, internationally, it makes it for Trump to walk away and sustain this non-negotiated status quo despite the fact that he's created a mess by starting this war of choice and chosen to walk away without cleaning it up, because after all, the fault is that of Iran due to its leadership being in disarray. 3, finally, it may help Trump fend off pressure to go back to open war with Iran, since if the problem is disarray within the leadership, Trump action or military action is not likely to solve it. Bottom line is, Trump is comfortable with the new status quo. As I pointed out that he would be once the ceasefire was first announced, he has achieved his key objective, getting out of the war, while Iran has not achieved its main goal, sanctions relief. Blaming Iran for the status quo helps him prolong it. So, not looking good, although it's looking like maybe Trita Parsi may have it right here, and that the goal of the U.S. Establishment is just to back away from this war, leaving Israel to do as it will, but not looking great. Israel is just waiting and raring to go. Israel Cat said on Thursday that Israel was waiting for a green light from the U.S. to break the ceasefire and renew attacks on Iran to plunge the city into the Stone Age and finish off the Khamenei family, a sign that the truce is on the brink of collapse. Israel is prepared to renew the war against Iran. The IDF is ready in defense and offense, and the targets are marked, Cat said, according to the Times of Israel. Cat said Israel was awaiting a green light from the United States, first and foremost, to complete the elimination of the Khamenei dynasty, the initiator of the extermination plan against Israel, and the successors of the leadership of the Iranian terror regime, in addition to return Iran to the age of darkness and stone by blowing up central energy and electricity facilities and crushing national economic infrastructure. That's pretty evil when you understand what that's saying. That is like some genocidal shit right there. He added that the renewed bombing campaign will be different and deadly and will add devastating blows in the most painful places following the enormous blows the Iranian terror regime has already suffered so far that will shake and collapse its foundations. The threat from Katz comes on the same day that Trump amplified calls to kill Iranian leaders who won't accept U.S. demands for a deal. Katz's rhetoric also echoes President Trump, who has previously threatened to send Iran back to the Stone Age by destroying all of its power plants. Trump has also threatened to unleash hell on Iran, blow up the entire country, and at one point said an entire civilization would die if he escalated his bombing campaign. So, not looking great. Looking like we could easily be going right back to things. We got the Senate is come to the rescue here, or let's be real, probably not going to. Apparently, they're getting ready to vote on a war powers resolution to block a U.S. attack on Cuba. We've had the Trump administration signaling crazy hard that is the next move. So next week, the Senate is expected to vote on a war powers resolution aimed at preventing a U.S. attack on Cuba, amid reports that the Pentagon is ramping up preparations for a potential war against the island. The bill SJ Resolution 124 was introduced last month by Senators Tim Kaine, Adam Schiff, and Ruben Gallego, and would block hostilities against Cuba that haven't been authorized by Congress. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't have much. I don't have much hope for this one. I don't think they're gonna do anything. But I don't know. I guess if you feel so possessed to go bug your politician, your local one, now would be the time to do so. If you go to this piece over at antiwar.com, they got a link in there. You can tell your senators to support it. I'm assuming you'll probably find you the information of your local senator. And we're also still bombing in Somalia. Surprise, surprise. 57th time this year. So more murder in Somalia. So and then another murder the following day. We got new news about more murder. So sorry, I missed a day, so I'm covering two separate. So now we're up to 57. Now we're up to 58. So up to 58 for those who are keeping track over. So last year, President Trump had the record at 124. The previous record was 63, which he had set in 2019. So we're already almost to the old record, and we're well on track to beat the old record, or the newest record. So I guess depending on how you look at it, killing it over there, I guess. Going for high scores. Isn't that great? Then over in Lebanon, Israel will be doing Israel shit. They killed another journalist in a crazy fucked up way. So unfortunately, at this point, I am not surprised. So this is why we can't have peace. A prominent Lebanese journalist, Amal Khalil, was killed on Wednesday in what appeared to be a targeted attack by the Israeli military in the town of Tyre in southern Lebanon. Her employer, Al Akbar, confirmed the death of their correspondent Wednesday evening. Here's a picture of her. Looks like kind of a normal, I don't know, probably late 20s, early 30s woman. Generally seems just a woman. Press jackets, press hat, press. Khalil and Zainab Faraj, a freelance journalist, were both on assignment in southern Lebanon, reporting on recent attacks in the southern village of Bint Jebel. According to Al Akbar, which published a timeline of the events, the car they were driving behind was targeted by an Israeli drone at 2:45 p.m., killing two men inside. Khalil and Faraj took shelter in a nearby house. At 2:50 p.m., Khalil contacted her editors and family, according to Lebanon-based journalist Courtney Bonau. News of the incident spread quickly, prompting Lebanese President Joseph Aoun to put out a statement calling on the Red Cross to rescue the two journalists in coordination with the Lebanese Army and the United Nations. At 4:27 p.m., the house where the two journalists were taking refuge was bombed by the Israeli military, and contact with the journalist was lost, according to Al Akbar. Israel did not respond to requests for access, obstructing any rescue operation, according to a Lebanese military official speaking to Al Jazeera. The Red Cross was eventually granted limited access to the site, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, which remained under active fire. They were able to evacuate Faraj, who reportedly sustained critical head injuries, and to recover the bodies of two other civilians who were killed. But they were forced to withdraw before finding Khalil because of continued shelling and the direct fire on rescue crews and vehicles. The Red Cross vehicle that transported journalist Faraj to Tubman Government Hospital was hit by Israeli gunfire, with bullet marks visible on the vehicle, according to the state-run national news agency. So that's Faraj. The girl is Khalil. Okay, that's the one we're talking about. The Red Cross was eventually able to return to the area, after which Khalil was pronounced dead. So Khalil was the one that was left behind because they weren't able to get to her because they were under attack the whole time. The repeated strikes on the same location, the targeting of an area where journalists were sheltering, and the obstruction of medical and humanitarian access constitute a grave breach of international humanitarian law. CPJ Regional Director Sarah Kuda said in a statement, the Israeli military did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Referred to by Al Akbar as their correspondent of the South, Khalil grew up in Baisaria, in a coastal town in Saida, about a 45-minute drive from the Israeli border. She spent more than a decade and a half covering the cyclical wars and occupations of southern Lebanon by the Israeli military. Founded in 2006, Al-Akbar's editorial line is widely seen as supportive of Hezbollah and the Shiite resistance, and it identifies itself as a secular, independent, progressive outlet. Khalil had previously received explicit death threats on her phone in September 2024 from Gideon Gal Ben Avraham, a media commentator who runs a Middle East analysis channel on YouTube, appears on Israeli television, and describes himself as a retired military officer who continues to help Israeli intelligence. The messages told her to leave the country if you want to keep your head on your shoulders, and asked whether her house was still standing. When contacted by Dropsite on Wednesday before news of Khalil's death emerged, Ben Avraham confirmed he sent the threats in 2024. Send greetings to all journalists affiliated with Hezbollah. For anyone who works for the organization should know that they are destined for death, he wrote, later clarifying that he considered Al-Akbar Hezbollah affiliated and that only Hezbollah related should be afraid, while Maronites and Sunnis should face no threats. It is not clear what, if any, formal relationship he has with the Israeli military. When pressed about Khalil's predicament being trapped under the rubble of a house that was targeted by Israeli military, he responded, "We don't share our intel with journalists." When asked directly whether he was a soldier when he sent the original threats to Khalil in 2024, Ben Avraham replied, "No comment." Last month, Israeli military openly admitted to assassinating prominent Lebanese journalist Ali Shoaib, a correspondent for Al-Manar TV, who had covered southern Lebanon for nearly 3 decades. The Israeli military falsely claimed that Shoaib was a Hezbollah intelligence operative also killed in this March 28 strike in the Jazin district in southern Lebanon, where Al-Mayadeen TV reporter Fatima Fatouni and her brother Mohammed, a video journalist. Their car, which was clearly carrying press equipment, was struck multiple times, with Fatouni initially surviving and attempting to flee before she was targeted and killed in a strike by Israel. Israel has killed at least 14 journalists, including Khalil in Lebanon, since October 2023. According to CPJ, in Gaza, Israeli military has killed over 260 Palestinian journalists since October 2023, making it the deadliest war for journalists ever recorded. So, pretty fucked up, pretty messed up. I mean, like, I don't know, they tried to kill her a million different ways and didn't stop until she was fucking dead, despite everyone fucking knowing about it for hours and trying to stop it. So, holy shit, it's hard to even come up with more of parody type situations and them committing war crimes. But they keep trying. They killed 5 in Lebanon the other day on the 22nd. So was it on Wednesday they killed 5, at least 5 people. And they killed 3 more yesterday. So 8 people in the last couple days. This is what Israel considers a ceasefire. And it's been extended for another 3 weeks, according to Trump, who said high-profile meetings in the Oval Office went very well and ended with a plan for Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun to meet in the coming weeks. So this is they're saying things are going well here. They're going to keep on extending this ceasefire. Gideon Sa'ar, the Israeli foreign minister, insisted Israel and Lebanon have no serious disagreements. It is only the existence of Hezbollah that remains an obstacle to normalize relations. He urged Lebanon to cooperate with Israel on disarming Hezbollah, which, as we've talked about on the show, would be a civil war. So that'll descend the country into even further chaos. In the meantime, Israel will continue its occupation of southern Lebanon and its systematic destruction of dozens of towns and villages south of the Yellow Line, which Israel established at the beginning of the previous ceasefire. We also have reports of mass looting in southern Lebanon, but they've got a pretty good point here. Of why shouldn't we? We're going to destroy it all anyways. South of the newly established Yellow Line, Israel has established de facto military occupation of over 50 Lebanese municipalities. Once again, this is a ceasefire. We're going to take all the shit we took and keep fucking killing you, just at a slower rate. It's also been demolishing homes and preventing the return of displaced locals. The destruction goes deeper than that, however. A new report from Israel's Haaretz quotes numerous Israeli soldiers within southern Lebanon saying the looting of civilian property from homes in the area has become widespread and routine. The commanders are making no serious effort to try to prevent it. Soldiers cited troops taking motorcycles, televisions, even sofas out of private homes and loading them on military vehicles and bringing them back across the border to Israel. Everyone sees it and understands it, one was quoted as saying. Though the IDF responded to the Haaretz report by claiming that it conducts inspections of the border and takes disciplinary action when necessary, the soldiers suggested that virtually never happens. Indeed, only some of the border crossings even have checkpoints in which to inspect looted cargo in the first place. At most, some commanders tell their soldiers to stop looting, but have taken no action to really enforce. Others simply let go. When there's no punishment, the message is obvious. One of the soldiers added another thought, said he thought if military police jailed anyone for the looting, it would stop pretty quickly. So far, the indication is that's not happening. Other soldiers suggested the reason looting is happening with such impunity is the IDF is engaged in wiping out many of those towns and villages. And the sense is, what difference does it make if I take it? It's going to be destroyed anyway. Mass looting was similarly reported in Gaza, according to Retz. In the course of that, only one indictment ever happened, which was ultimately settled with a plea deal. We still got murder over in Gaza, and this yellow line keeps on a-creeping. The yellow line they've also instituted over in Lebanon in that so-called ceasefire. They've been moving an agreed truce line in Gaza westward over the 6 months since the ceasefire, expanding their zone of control and making the state of limbo ever more dangerous for Palestinians. The yellow line agreed in the U.S. brokered ceasefire in October was supposed to be temporary pending further Israeli withdrawals, but the partially observed truce was stalled after its first phase amid disagreements over the disarmament of Hamas and continued Israeli bombardment of Gaza. Since then, the yellow line has crept forward in several places, expanding the army-controlled area well beyond the 53% of Gaza territory implied in the original ceasefire maps. According to the research agency Forensic Architecture, by December, Israel had taken 58% of the strip and continued to edge forwards. The line is marked in some places by yellow concrete blocks, many of which were moved in December and January as the army took more territory, particularly in urban areas. All over Gaza, residents awoke to find the line and moved overnight, and they were suddenly in a free fire zone. The yellow line has advanced several times, said Faik El-Sakani, 37 in Al-Tufa. He said the line moved 100 meters in January, reaching Al-Sanafur, roundabout near the Salah al-Din Road, the main route running north-south through the Strip. During these advances, displaced people who had been staying near Salah al-Din Street were targeted, he said. In recent days, he added, there had been a significant uptick in demolitions, excavations, and new buildings by the army, along with constant heavy gunfire in the area. So let's look at what this yellow line has wrought over the past few days. Was this on Wednesday? They killed 5 Palestinians, 3 of which were kiddos, so that's wonderful. One struck a group of Palestinians near a mosque in Beit Lahia. Let me see, what else we got? Let's see, any of these are the yellow line ones. Israeli attacks hit other parts of Gaza on Wednesday, including the Barej refugee camp in the central part of the Strip, where at least 4 Palestinians were injured by Israeli gunfire. They also reported an Israeli airstrike on a group of Palestinians working in the rubble of their home killed 1 person. So that's wonderful. Isn't that great? A guy was just trying to get his life back together, and they blew him up for it. And then yesterday we had some more murders. This time only 3, but 2 of them were civil defense workers. So, that's wonderful. Israeli strike in Gaza on Thursday hit a vehicle in the central part of the Strip, killing at least 3 Palestinians as the IDF continues its constant violations of the U.S.-backed ceasefire deal. 2 of the Palestinians were part of Gaza's civil defense, the Enclave's agency that's responsible for emergency work and rescue operations. Photos from a funeral in Deir al-Bala show an orange vest worn by Palestinian civil defense workers on one of the bodies of the deceased. The Quds Network also reported that the 5 people, including 3 children who were killed the night before by an Israeli airstrike outside of a mosque in Beit Lahia, have been identified as Abdullah al-Abed, 9, Salah al-Abed, 12, Muhammad Balusha, 14, and Allah Balusha, 46, and Anas Abu Fal, 19. Sounds like a real fucking family of terrorists, right? That 9-year-old, 12-year-old, and 14-year-old. Yep. Gaza's health ministry said in its daily update, which is releases about midday Gaza time, the Israeli forces killed at least 6 Palestinians and wounded 18 over the previous 24-hour period. Number of victims are still under rubble in the streets as ambulance and civil defense crews have been unable to reach them so far. The ministry said that since the signing of the so-called ceasefire deal in early October, the IDF has killed 792 Palestinians in Gaza and wounded 2,235, more than 3,000 Palestinian casualties. Amid the constant Israeli attacks, which have escalated this month, there is no sign of progress in the President Trump-backed Gaza plan, as the U.S. and Israel continue to demand Hamas's disarmament, while Hamas insists the issue cannot be discussed until the first phase of the ceasefire is actually implemented, which is how every ceasefire seems to go with Israel ever. They do not obey the ceasefire whatsoever, and then they ask for more. And then anyone who has anything resembling a spine says, okay, well, maybe after you do the first fucking thing. And then after enough hemming and hawing after that, then we get back to the murder. So don't have much hope for what's going on over there right now. Hopefully things get better. Let's roll through the chat, say our goodbyes, any more good mornings of those we missed. And then I have a fun little outro for you, something I think's funny. I know you guys might just think it's weird, but I think you'll like it. With that, let's roll through the chat, check in on you beautiful people, and then we'll get out of here. I'll see you guys. Next one, like I said, next week's going to be kind of all over the place, so I don't know how many dumps we'll get in next week, but I'll try to get some in. But let's roll through the chat one last time, and let's get the fuck out of here. Good morning, Chris. Good morning. Saying hello to everybody. Hello, everyone. Tom saying he thinks Trump has dementia or something. I'm willing to go along with the dementia line at this point. Just get him the fuck out of there. I don't know if I buy that, though. But perhaps. I mean, he's wiling out. I'll give him that. Good morning. Aggressively agreeing. Saying Trump isn't making a single decision. He's just a retarded mouthpiece. His handlers are probably letting him say whatever he wants to muddy the waters while he scheme. Yeah, perhaps. Q-Bert says, the man who's been hit in the ear hard enough to make it bleed, I can assure you that 2 little streaks of blood aren't all you would get, especially from an 80-year-old who bleed if you flick their skin. Yeah, that's a good point. No, maybe we'll have to one of these days focus back in on the crazy assassination, because there is something to that. I mean, your face bleeds a lot, so the idea that like his ear got nicked and we just got that little tiny spurt of blood and that's it. And now he's got perfect ears like nothing ever happened. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it really just ever so grazed him. I mean, I don't know. It seems a little unbelievable to me. Let's check it and see what else is in here. All right. Well, I guess let's get out of here. Which works. I see some more chats that I could go into, but I gotta go do a morning. You know what? It just hit me. All this coffee just hit the tummy all of a sudden. Well, all right, guys. With that, I do have something I think you guys will get some joy out of. It gave me a few giggles indeed. Before we get into that, I do want to let you guys know how you can support this show. If you want to support the show, you can leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers as well. On Twitter, that's at Tower Gang Jose. Everywhere else, it's the No Way Jose podcast. Just search No Way Jose. It'll pop up. No Way, Jose, exclamation point. You'll find it. It'll pop up. You go subscribe, do the things. If you want to support the show the best way you can that with money over at patreon.com. So No Way Jose 2020. We got the QR code right over here in the top left-hand corner if you'd prefer to use that. At the low level of $2, you get a whole host of perks. I give you guys access to early episodes. I try to do about 1 to 2 of those per week. I just had Jacob on last night. I was supposed to have Matt on Wednesday, but I think I'm going to have him on Saturday sometime for another weekly Wolfson. So, those are the paywalled content. I try to do about 1 to 2 of those per week. Keep 3 to 4 behind the paywall at any given time. Also give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed. Gives you guys access to Telegram. Also to the pre-show, post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which goes out on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I also give a big shout out to my sponsors, which is the highest level of my Patreon. Is a big thank you for their support. I'm my previous coach on Tower Gang, at Learner Toad, also at ApplegateDees, at ZOVRCK, at _Infinite Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebo, big fan of the show, Torme, at Wayne Tackus, 100 Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Wintergat, of the Biblical Anarchy Podcast. And with that, guys, let's get into this outro. To set this up, I got to give you a little bit of a setup. I got to remind you who this guy is, especially who knows. If you're an audio person listening, you'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Jose?" Well, first off, I'm going to show you this guy is Jonathan Frakes. He does this show called what was it called? It was called Beyond Belief. So this is who he is, just to show him to you before I show the chopped up version that I think will give you guys a good little laugh. But here he is. Let's just watch. Here's this guy, just to jog your memory on who this fella is.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. Not this time. It never happened. It's false. It never happened.
He's talking about the Trump assassination, by the way.
It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up. It's fiction. We made up this one. We made it up. Not this time. Wrong. Not this time. Not this time. You're wrong. Not this time. It never happened.
All right, so that's the guy. What did he say his name is? Jonathan Frakes. He's like, I don't know if I've ever actually watched a single episode of the show, although I feel like I have. It reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of something I would have watched at like my grandma's house when I was like 8 years old or something, some shit she'd be watching. So, yeah, anyways, that's that guy. You've probably seen him in memes once or twice. There's some banger memes where they use that template. Well, this is the sort of stuff I find funny, and so I feel like sharing to you guys. Someone took a bunch of these clips and played them at half speed, and instead of having the effect that it normally has, where it's like, I don't know, kind of a fun little one-liner and kind of a little bit of a mysterious, kind of almost a nostalgic vibe to it either, this just makes him sound like the drunk dude at the bar, and this is the sort of stuff that I find funny. You guys might think it's stupid, but I think this should give you guys some laughs on the way out. We'll see you on the next one. Here is Jonathan Frakes, played at half speed. Imagine this guy as a drunk guy at the bar. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Have you ever walked out of a mall into a huge parking area and realized you'd forgotten where you parked your car? Ever gone mountain biking? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's the right tip? Have you called a plumber to your home lately? How superstitious are you? How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery? Would you display this as a trophy? Do you have a pet? Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you believe in the power of a curse? Have you had your hearing tested lately? Planning a trip soon? Can you remember the tallest man you've ever seen? Do you love to go a-wandering beneath the clear blue sky? Have you noticed what big stars real estate agents have become? Are you careful with your personal records? Does your computer ever seem to have a mind of its own? Have you ever visited a Chinatown section in a major city? Have you ever visited a flea market? Have you ever visited a truck stop? Did you ever have a job as a waiter? Have you noticed how many successful restaurants are theme-based these days? Have you ever had the desire to write your initials in wet cement? Did you have a favorite book as a child? Do you have a favorite method of falling asleep? Is there anything more precious than the gift of sight? Who can explain the mystery of music? We make our own luck. Can a home ever be truly safe? Have you checked the back sections of newspapers and magazines lately? What is the secret of the green thumb? What mysteries lie within the frame of a portrait? How many dramas have taken place in these tight little boxes? How do you describe terror? Have you ever noticed the curious things one sees discarded by the roadside? Who knows why certain people save certain things? Have you ever experienced a sleepwalking episode? Is there a more important job than that of a teacher? Is there a more annoying sound than the screech of chalk against chalkboard?